When was the last time you were truly, completely alone, and okay with it? Now, when was the last time you had 300 people watch your story and still went to bed feeling like nobody saw you? If you are General Z, born between 1997 and 2012, that second feeling is probably more familiar than you want to admit. The most digitally connected generation in human history is also the loneliest, and that is not a coincidence. It is a design flaw. Today we go deep into the psychology behind that loneliness, not the surface stuff you've already heard. The dark mechanics underneath. Stay with me, because if you understand this, you can start to undo it. Let's start with the number that should not be possible. According to a 2023 Surgeon General report, General Z is the loneliest generation ever recorded, by a significant margin. Not the loneliest of people who lived alone, not the loneliest in war, the loneliest generation among people who were literally never without other humans in their pocket. Here is the psychological key: connection and contact are not the same thing. Your brain does not register alike as human warmth. It never will. Every time you scroll and someone else's life looks fuller than yours, a tiny signal fires in your brain: I am falling behind. I am less than. Psychologists call this social comparison theory, but General Z did not just get exposed to it. You were submerged in it before your identity had even formed. You grew up being measured, every post a test, every metric a verdict, and slowly, silently, you started measuring yourself the same way. Now let's talk about the machine. Because the loneliness epidemic did not happen by accident. It was accelerated by architecture. Social media platforms are not built to make you feel good, they are built to keep you engaged, and the fastest way to keep you engaged is to make you feel something intense: envy, inadequacy, desire, outrage. These are not side effects, these are the product. Here is what this does neurologically: it keeps your brain in a permanent low-level threat state, always scanning, always comparing, always slightly unsafe. When you're in threat mode, genuine connection feels risky. Vulnerability feels dangerous. So you perform, you post, you curate, but you never actually arrive. And here is the cruel loop: the more you perform, the lonelier you feel. Because performing and connecting are opposite actions. General Z did not choose this loop. It was installed before you were old enough to refuse it. Loneliness in Gen Z does not look the way movies show it. It is not the person eating alone in the cafeteria. It is far more invisible than that. There are three faces. The first, surrounded loneliness. You are at the party, you are in the group chat, and you feel completely, utterly alone. This happens because modern socializing has been replaced by parallel performance. Everyone is broadcasting, nobody is actually listening. The second face, achievement loneliness. You crushed your goals, you got the grades, you built the following, and you feel nothing. This is what happens when you have optimized for metrics instead of meaning. You hit the number and the number means nothing, because nobody who truly knows you was watching. The third face is the most dangerous: performed wellness. You post about your mental health, you use all the correct language, and you have never once told anyone what you actually feel. This is the trap of a generation that learned to process pain publicly before they learned to feel it privately, the vocabulary of healing without the experience of it. Let us talk about friendship. Because General Z has more contacts than any generation before them, and fewer close friends. Research from the American Survey Center found that General Z is twice as likely as older generations to report having no close friends at all. Not few, none. Why? Because deep friendship requires something the algorithm cannot provide: time spent doing nothing together, boredom shared. Silence that is not awkward. General Z never got that. They got group chats that replace presence, reaction emojis that replace response, and a DM slide that replaces showing up. And the dark truth nobody says out loud: many General Z individuals do not actually know how to be a friend. Not because they are selfish, because they were never given the conditions to practice. Friendship is a skill. Skills require repetition, and repetition requires the kind of unstructured, offline, boring, beautiful time that was replaced by a screen before General Z could accumulate enough of it. Here is a specific symptom that reveals everything. General Z has a clinically documented anxiety around phone calls, not inconvenience. Anxiety. Psychologists call this phone anxiety or telephobia. And it is not about being shy, it is about the loss of control. Text lets you perform. A live conversation requires you to show up as yourself, unfiltered, unedited, real. And General Z was never trained for that exposure. This is why General Z can have 100 virtual friends and feel terrified at the thought of asking one of them for help. The closeness was never real enough to activate that trust, and isolation loves that silence. Every time you choose not to reach out, The wall gets one brick thicker. Now the part most psychology videos skip. Because it is uncomfortable. The Gen Z loneliness epidemic is profitable. Lonely people consume more. They scroll more, buy more, seek more validation from platforms that sell that validation back to them. Platforms are not incentivized to fix your loneliness. They are incentivized to monetize it. The lonelier you feel, the longer you stay. The longer you stay, the more they earn. This is not a conspiracy theory. These are documented business models. The attention economy depends on emotional dysregulation. Your pain is the product. And here is the cruelest part. The cure they offer for loneliness is more of the same drug. Download this app, find your community, connect online, but the connection online is what created the wound. Knowing this does not fix it immediately, but it does something essential. It removes the shame. You are not broken. You were placed inside a system designed to produce this feeling. So what actually works? Not what sounds good. What the research actually shows. First, proximity before depth. You do not need a soulmate. You need to be around the same humans repeatedly without an agenda. This is how the brain builds trust. Through repetition, not intensity. A weekly class, a regular spot, a recurring commitment. These are not hobbies, they are friendship infrastructure. Use them. Second, tolerate the awkward call. Make one voice call this week to someone you actually want to know better. It will be uncomfortable. Make it anyway. Discomfort is where real connection lives. Third, and this one is hardest, let someone see you fail at something. Not on video. In person. Nothing builds trust faster than witnessed imperfection. The algorithm cannot give you this. No platform was designed for this. This is the only currency loneliness cannot counterfeit, being genuinely known. You were sold connection as a product. Real connection is not a product, it is a practice. And like all practices, it starts badly and gets better. If you are General Z and you are watching this alone right now, I want you to hear something clearly. You are not weak. You are not defective. You were handed a world that was not built for human beings. The loneliness you feel is real. The system that produced it is real. And the path out, the slow, uncomfortable, offline, imperfect path, is also real. If this hits something in you, drop "seen" in the comments, because you were seen today. And seen is where it starts. Subscribe if you want to understand the psychology that the system hopes you never figure out. New video coming soon. Next week, the psychology of Zennials, the generation that grew up before the noise, and what they can teach General Z about surviving the silence. Until then, put the phone down for 10 minutes, not forever, just 10. Your brain will thank you. Peace.